Aw man, today I'm feeling so happy. The channel has been taking off more than ever. So for those of you subscribers and viewers of mine who have been watching my videos for so many years, I'd like to thank you all for your continued support. The Logo fandom might just be the single greatest community on the whole planet. Hey, no, we're not doing that. I appreciate the gesture, but no thank you. And it's thanks to your continued support that I've gotten a brand new house. Craig, what in God's name is this? I said a wonderful house, not a waffle house. Why are you so old? Anyway, all of that talk of fandoms reminded me of something really cool. Video games are super awesome, so much so that I feel the need to remind you of that at the start of every one of these videos. But one aspect that I never really touch on when talking about them are the fandoms. Unless if you're a League of Legends player, then you probably enjoy stuff. And if you enjoy stuff such as TV shows, a movie, or shocker, a video game, then of course you'll love thinking about it and discussing it online with other fans of the thing you like. And talking with people who also like the thing you like can help you find new friends, discover and learn things you didn't know about, or make and laugh at jokes and memes that only that community would understand. And you know, when a gaming fandom is good, it's really good. You'll see all sorts of funny shit posts or fan creations and animations, detailed guides and analysis on certain games, super cool and detailed YouTube videos that awesome people pour their blood, sweat, and tears into making. Help me! However, like all good things, fan bases tend to be unpleasant. From elitists who can't stand if you play a game differently, to toxic redditors who'll downvote you to the abyss because you thought Scrotum Sniffer 16 was better than 9. And worst of all is when some of these communities contain... If I hit a quarter for every time a hitman was sent to my house because I said Taco Bell's quesadillas taste like deep-fried kittens, then I'd have 5 cents. Yeah, it's kind of funny that all of this terrible stuff will happen, people will tear each other's throats out, and you'll get doxxed because you don't like Incineroar. Anyway, this video is going to be pretty slanderous because it's fun to make fun of stupid people doing stupid things because of stupid video games, and I'm only going to be talking about fandoms that I personally have experiences with because I'd rather not comment on groups that I've never actually been involved in. And while I feel like this should be obvious, let me stress that these fandoms I'm going to talk about today aren't all bad. The people I'm calling out are just a very loud minority in communities that are otherwise fine. Let's not lump all of them in the same category, please. Anyway, let's talk about morons. I don't really know where to begin. I mean, we could talk about Mario. I mean, who doesn't love Mario? Definitely one of my favorite American things ever, but I feel like he's too broad, you know? It's like Frog Fractions, where everyone loves the series so much that every take is as cold as the waters of the Arctic Ocean. Which, as we know, has a similar temperature to the food you'd get from Taco Bell. And whenever there is a hot take when discussing these games, it's probably something stupid like Sunshine bad, 64 bad. It's just something I've been thinking about a lot recently. Mario's so broad that it doesn't feel as defined as other fan bases, if you catch my drift. And unless if the person in question is a fucking robot, you don't just look at someone and say, "Oh yeah, he's definitely a Mario fan." You know, like the sub-series or the RPGs, you know, they have very noticeable fan bases for better or for worse. Meanwhile, for the main series, the fan base is so huge that when everyone's a Mario fan, nobody is. A Pokemon, for example, is a similar size in terms of popularity. However, that fan base is a lot more identifiable. Sometimes for the wrong reasons. See, Pokemon fans have this cool gimmick of being the most insufferable versions known to mankind. Now, I've been a fan since Gen 4, and I get the frustration to some extent because the games peaked with Black 2 and White 2, then fell off plus Ratio, and while not all of the games released afterwards are necessarily bad, they do feel more hollow than usual. However, Pokemon fans will bitch and moan and complain about the most insignificant things. I remember when Let's Go was first announced, the amount of backlash those games received was beyond ridiculous. People complaining about these games in a children's video game series being more casual, like, oh god, the horror. And by the way, I think Let's Go freaking sucks balls, but even I think that the things being said about the game's pre-launch was some of the most childish whining I've ever seen from any group of people. Like, dude's gonna look at Elmo's number journey, get insulted, and then write a 3-hour video essay about how awful at it. What is wrong with you? And every other game released since then has been through a similar situation. Like, dude, I didn't like the National Dex cut in Sword and Shield either, and I do think the games were rushed and should have been delayed, but the build-up to release was awful. People were acting like they were rallying for a civil rights movement when in reality, you were pissing your pants because Beethoven wasn't in the game. You can criticize them all you want, but if you genuinely believe that Sword and Shield and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are among the worst games you've ever played, then you've barely seen anything. Go play an actually bad game. Oh, and something I wanted to squeeze into this segment since it's relevant. On the topic of Pokemon, I'd actually like to talk about Yokai Watch for a second. So due to both of these series being monster collecting RPGs, these fan bases used to fight a lot and was honestly pretty stupid. Like, sure, they were the same concept, but when you actually take a look under the magnifying glass, you'll see that they're both very different games. For some reason, when two games share a similar concept, people feel the need to have the two of them fight to the death, as if only one game can remain. Now, personally, I'm under the revolutionary mindset of thinking that they can coexist. With that said, though, even though some Pokemon fans were starting unnecessary fights with Yokai Watch fans, the Yokai Watch fans are pretty damn annoying too. There was a point where Yokai Watch was extremely popular in Japan, but it never quite took off in the West, and the fan base is almost dead now. But the ones who remain insist that Yokai Watch was crucified and died at the hands of the evil Pokemon fans, instead of considering the fact that maybe Level 5 just made bad marketing decisions whenever it came to bringing the series to the West. Yeah, localized the third game in 2019 when the 3DS had been on its way out, and released the game in the same month as Kingdom Hearts 3 and a Resident Evil 2 remake. That's a great idea, fellas. Oh, and now I have a good segue into talking about Resident Evil. I've been looking into the Resident Evil community ever since I started becoming a fan of the series back in early 2021. And it's definitely one of the better fandoms I've seen. I've learned about a lot of funny tricks and cool things you can do in the games. There are rad mods and whatnot, and I love talking about the series if you somehow couldn't tell. But if there's something I don't really like about it, it's the division. Because the series has seen so many shifts in gameplay over its long lifespan, some fans prefer certain gameplay styles over others, and that's okay to have preferences, but unfortunately there are several elitists out there who think that the only good ones are the classic entries, and that if it doesn't have a fixed camera angle and tank controls, then it's not a true survival horror game. Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have people who don't have any sort of respect or appreciation of the older titles whatsoever. Like, oh, they're so clunky, bro. The combat, dude, is so poorly designed, and the controls, dude, they're so bad. Oh man, I don't think I have the heart to tell tank control hitters how to back up their car. And yet here I am, and I like all of the styles. Even if they are all drastically different from each other, there are several aspects of the series that are present in each game, such as the characters, the inventory management, the monsters, the replay value, all of that good stuff. And I do like some of the approaches to gameplay more than others, but so long as they have those aspects that I just mentioned that really make the series so appealing to me, then I'm usually cool with whatever game I'm playing. Also, I don't know, bro, the fanbase can be pretty overdramatic at times, like the infamous boat area in Resident Evil 7. I mean, I don't like it either. It's not like the worst area in the series, but it's probably my least favorite due to how it exposes so many of the game's problems. However, acting like it literally ruins the game isn't just hyperbolic, it's plain stupid. I've seen people describe it as the terrible second half of 7, but it's not even half the game. It's the lackluster final third, if anything. The same goes for the factory area and village, to a lesser extent. But I'm gonna be honest, what hate it receives is even more unjustified there. Like, it does go on for a bit longer than it should, but there are a ton of fun combat sections here and reasons to go back and explore earlier parts of the map. Yeah, it's easily the most hated part of the game, and I don't really get it. Like, yeah, the part of the game where I'm heavily rewarded for fighting all of these intimidating enemies and exploring my surroundings, that's bad. But, oh, the lame action chase at the reservoir where you just run forward the whole time and fight a boring boss that takes 5 years to beat, now that's raw as fuck, bro. I don't have a segue for this next segment. Ace Attorney fans are pretty fine for the most part. I feel like most visual novel fans are really similar to one another, even if they're fans of entirely different series. Now, ignoring the fact that you might get doxxed if you don't like Himiko from Danganronpa V3, these fellas are pretty cool. I like talking with VN fans, and it's fun to have chill conversations with other people about the games and their stories. The worst I've ever had to deal with is comments on the Danganronpa trial ranking video from people with opinions that I don't like. So thankfully, I've only been exposed to the pleasant side of the community community, so that's neat because some Danganronpa fans can be really stubborn and annoying, and I don't like them that much. But then there's Ace Attorney fans, which they're fine too, but then there's some people out there that think that they're genuinely more intelligent because they're playing a logic game and they have to use more than 3 brain cells to progress. Dude realizes that his birthday is the same day he was born, and he's like, oh yeah guys, hand me that college degree. And then they remember that the same series they feel so smart for playing also has logical occurrences such as... Also, when it comes to discussion about Apollo, and more specifically Investigations 1, some of the fans get really obnoxious. They're both divisive games in the series, but the people who hate them act like they're some of the worst games ever made, giving them 2 out of 10s and stuff like that. I mean, dude, I don't like them either, but... they're books! I understand feeling passionate about a bad game in a series you love, but quit acting like they killed your grandma or gave you a one-way ticket to Brazil. Now, book game fans are funny and all, but I think the fighting game community is the most comical one by far. And by that, I mean exclusively Smash Bros. I love Super Smash Bros. I love the crossover aspect, the gameplay, and the cast of fun and unique characters. And Min Min is there too. And watching sick-ass tournaments and character combo videos and stuff really encouraged me to get into the competitive scene when Ultimate first launched. And I've been steadily following it ever since release, and let me tell you, Smash Twitter sure is... What? The competitive Smash community is no doubt in my mind one of the most horrific, toxic cesspools of garbage I've ever seen. These dudes hop on Twitter to whine about how they lost to Big Taco Tim, the Mewtwo main on Elite Smash, complain that Mario's up air can only combo into itself 14 times in a row instead of 15, and spontaneously combust whenever they see a character that has more than one projectile. Ultimate has an annoying cast, and there are plenty of characters I hate fighting, but at a certain point you just gotta... just get good, bro. Everyone's mentality whenever it comes to this game is just awful. They never blame themselves. They always only lose because of gimmicks or Wi-Fi or some other crap they pulled out of their ass. I get that it's a competitive game and so it'll probably have a lot of bad sports by nature, but I've never seen such a flood of bad takes in my life. And god, dude, when the DLC came out, things just got worse. Remember whenever some tournaments outright banned Hero for all of his RNG? When in reality, the character is like mid-tier and has never made any noticeable placements at tournaments. Or how there are still people whining about Byleth's inclusion. They've been pissing themselves for so long that they could run a successful lemonade stand. And don't get me wrong, that reveal was probably the worst one, but at a certain point, you just need to get over it. Smash fans treat the devs, wait, excuse me, they treat Sakurai, because, you know, he's the only one who made the game. They treat Sakurai like a literal god whenever he does what the fans want him to do, but the second he tries to make a cool fighter out of an unknown character, okay, that's it. It's circumcision time. And then Fighters Pass 2 ruined the whole scene because everyone here pisses people off, like Kazuya and Steve. God forbid Steve wins a tournament. Hey, instead of congratulating this player for winning a huge tournament, let's discredit his win and insult him because he was carried by Minecraft Steve, a skillless, brain-dead character who's dominating the meta. Man, I thought you guys liked minors. And don't get me wrong, I think Steve's top tier and he has a ton of dumb stuff, but going so far as to ban him is such a huge skill issue. It's so funny that all of this fighting was sparked by funny Minecraft block guy. But Smash players don't want to learn the matchup and develop counterplay. It's too much work, and they always find a reason to not improve at the game. And the worst part is that, look, for all of these other communities, the stupid people in them are typically the vocal minority. They probably only make up a small fraction of the whole group. With Smash Bros, on the other hand, I'd say that more than half of the Twitter crowd is insufferable and whiny. There are great people in the community who can help you get better at the game and can be fun to play with. And these people aren't that. So what have we learned today? I think video game fandoms suck. Yeah, a lot of video game fan bases, well, they're pretty bad to say the least. But you know, I do want to end things off on a positive note. So instead of focusing on bad fandoms or negative parts of relatively good fandoms, let's talk about some more happy stuff. There are a lot of fandoms out there that are pretty tame as far as I'm aware, such as Kirby, because that series has never really been divisive. Everyone agrees that most of the games are pretty solid. Pretty much every fan base for an RPG Maker game I've seen is pretty chill too. Games like Lisa or Yume Nikki are usually pretty niche and tight-knit, so when somebody makes a funny joke that that only the community would get, it feels all the more personal and heartwarming. And there are so many different reasons to love these games that all sorts of people will make interesting observations of a quality or detail you might have missed while playing them, and that just makes you appreciate them all the more. Plus, like I've said in the past, if you like one of these games, then you'll more than likely enjoy another one. There's a lot of overlap with these fan bases, so I think that's why they're all equally cool. One of my favorite fan bases has to be Team Fortress 2. Now, of course, everything here isn't all that great, of course. Lots of people complaining about the game's design, how certain weapons or characters play, Valve's lack of support for the game, and I feel like it's justified to be upset about these things so long as you don't take out that displeasure on poor Bingus Bunghole who just installed the game 12 minutes ago. Yeah, some really hardcore veterans aren't really that nice to newcomers, which is rather counterintuitive since they're bringing new life into your game that could die any day now. Other than that though, the community is filled with a ton of great people who not only love the gameplay and the world of the game, but express that love through creating cosmetics, wonderfully fun animations, incredibly well-made videos detailing game mechanics, and helping other players understand the game better. TF2 is already a really fun and goofy game by nature, but the amount of silly things that have happened while playing with veterans and casuals alike, just trying to have a stupid good time, really elevates the whole game to being one of my favorites. And unfortunately, there have been bots and hackers plaguing the game for a couple years now, and those problems have gotten really bad in recent times. But a little while ago, the community banded together to save the game. The Save TF2 hashtag was so huge that Valve managed to remember the password to the official Team Fortress 2 Twitter account. And ever since then, the bot issue has been addressed. Not completely fixed yet, mind you, but still, they're working on it.
I'm working on it!
That might be my favorite fandom of all time, but there is a close second that I found recently. Professor Layton fans. All 9 of them. The Professor Layton fandom, or what's left of it at least, might just be the most positive group of people I've seen. These puzzle games used to be really popular, and even though they started to fall off in terms of relevancy after the 3DS titles came out, the games still have a very loyal following to this day. Because there's a lot to love, Layton is a very charming series. The games have these wonderful, heartwarming stories, a lovely cast of characters, and a variety of different brain teasers to solve and other things to do along the way. I believe there are a couple reasons why this community is the way it is. For one, the series can appeal to just about anyone, whether you're a hardcore gamer or more casual. The puzzles make you feel great about yourself, and not in an arrogant way. They make you feel clever for thinking hard or catching on to certain tricks they might have. And the stories, while not being nearly as layered as other visual novels, if these can even be considered visual novels, they're still good and genuinely wholesome. And I say genuinely because, you know, other games can act like they're wholesome or whatever, and yet feel artificial and fake. Bad things do happen in these games. It doesn't sugarcoat those bad things, however. It shows how people can affect and change the lives of those who are struggling and make them feel better. Professor Layton as a character he's just freaking awesome, and yet he's so humble and kind to those around him and tries to make a positive impact on everyone's lives. And that's perfectly reflected in the fan base. People who were affected by these games and now strive to have a good influence on those around them. This is getting a little heavy. And they've been through a lot. There hasn't been a new game starring the Professor in almost a decade at this point. Not only that, but they didn't just have to watch their series die once, but twice.
I don't want to say goodbye again. I can't. I won't.
Technically 3 times, but everyone agrees that last one wasn't so pretty. There are a lot of great, small, but dedicated fan bases out there, and this is my favorite of the bunch. And I assure you, that's not the only fan base trying to make everyone's experiences with their favorite franchises more special. I think everyone wants that. Even the ones I talked about for their toxicity. I need to remind you that isn't a majority of those fandoms, they're just a minority. A very loud minority, but a minority nonetheless. And you can't let a couple of unpleasant people take away enjoyment from the things you love. Every fanbase deep down is just trying to have fun, or spark discussion, or learn more and more about their favorite games, movies, TV shows, books. Lord knows we need all the happiness we can get, so be that person who shows a fan of something you really like the reason why you love it so much. Craig, I've read this 30-page essay about why Taco Bell is good, and man, I'm just not seeing it.